Welcome back, everyone. It's time to start the session this afternoon. And we'll do so with Peter Meyer from the Institute of German Language in Mannheim, who's going to present a dictionary writing tool used for a project to trace German loanword in Slavic languages. Please.
Thanks. I will try to cheer up our common postprandial dose now by sharing some remarks with you on project on historical lexicography, a rather small project, a joint effort between two different German institutions. And the topic of this joint project is loanwords. Loanwords in Polish from German that have been passed on into the East Slavic languages, Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Russian. So what we are doing is we look at German loanwords in Polish and systematically search for correlates in the East Slavic languages. To give that, make that a little bit more concrete, consider this map. You start from left and work your way to the right. There is an early New High German word, drucker, meaning printer, the person, not the machine, which has been borrowed into Polish as drukarz, and then went via a complicated historical process into a Belarusian and Ukrainian, and later on into Russian. The dotted lines denote somewhat less probable borrowing pathways. And indeed, the focus of the project is to find the possible borrowing pathways of individual German words that went through Polish into East Slavic, and there are quite a few possibilities how this could have been done, with or without Old Ruthenian, an old written East Slavic language as a transmitter, and sometimes even directly from German into the East Slavic languages. I won't dwell on the philological details because this is all about IT stuff, more or less. So our agenda is to give you first a very brief overview of some aspects of the lexicographical process that we have in this project, and to briefly give you an impression of the software tool that we have developed to cope with our tasks. And the main part of the talk is the meta-sense editor, as I have called it, that is used to align word senses found in different dictionaries. Because what the project essentially does is creating dictionaries from dictionaries. Our primary sources are not corpora, but the huge lexicographical tradition in the Slavic countries that we can draw on. And we can conclude somewhat unsurprisingly with a conclusion. Okay, the complications with our project arise because there are at least 3 distinct layers of lexicographical data that we have to consider. So first of all, we have a frame of reference. We consider those and only those Polish loanwords from German that can be found in the DGLP. I will use this abbreviation throughout this talk. That's the Dictionary of German Loanwords in Written and Standard Polish, that has been published online in 2010 and features some 2,400 entries on German loanwords in Polish that are of Germanic origin. So no German lexis that comes from Greek or Latin, for example, is included. That's our operational frame of reference. We don't consider any other German words, even though they might have gone through Polish into East Slavic. And our main source for investigation are a number of historical and contemporary monolingual dictionaries of the 3 East Slavic languages that are systematically scanned for cognates or correlates in a very wide sense of Polish words that are found in the DGLP. It is very important to note that in these 20 dictionaries, among the many multi-volume and long-year projects, usually no information as to etymology or loanword status is given at all. So we can't just copy information. We have to do research to find our candidates for words that have been passed. and as a bonus, we include unpublished material from 4 very large dictionary projects. So in order to cover all those words that have not been published yet, project partners in the Eastern European countries will in effect extract the information that we need from paper slips. The result of the project will be target dictionaries, 3 dictionaries for German, loanwords mediated via Polish in Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Russian. And these 3 dictionaries that are heavily interlinked will be published as modules, so to speak, in a portal of loanword dictionaries that is online now at the Institute for the German Language, the Lehnwortportal Deutsch, that I have presented 2 years ago here, with several cross-referencing and visualization facilities that I won't talk about today. The DGLP, the Polish loanword dictionary, is already a part of this portal, so users will be able to switch between the different layers of these borrowing chains later on. Okay, the main problem that is the subject of the talk today is a problem with now more than 13,000 excerpted word senses from different East Slavic dictionaries. And here you have these 3 layers again. For example, the record holder for Polish is the word waga, scales, from German Waage, that has 24 word senses in the DGLP alone. There are lots of correlate words in the East Slavic languages that all more or less sound like vaga. And depending on the dictionary that you look at, the number of word senses present varies between 2 and 13. And we have excerpted for this single Polish word alone 111 word senses, 17 different dictionaries. So that's a huge amount of things. And our target dictionaries will have their own polysemy structure and their own word sense definitions. And we have to somehow match or align our final word senses with the word senses found in all those source dictionaries and even with the Polish dictionary. Because the philological target of the project is to find out things about how semantics changed during borrowing process. Not only borrowing pathways, but also historical semantics and so on. Okay, now a brief glance at the dictionary writing system that we implemented ourselves. It's a fairly straightforward client-server model. The standard mode of operation in Mannheim and Oldenburg is that you have computers connected via internet with a server app and using a dictionary writing system. And what the dictionary writing system does is essentially creating and updating XML documents in a database. The editorial offices in our Eastern European partner countries don't have reliable internet access everywhere, so there is a special offline mode for the editorial offices there, and they can sometimes make backups automatically, but it's a different way of working with things. I won't do much advertisement for standard features of the system because it's what you would expect of a dictionary writing system in general. There are 2 points, however, that I would like to dwell on a little bit. The one thing is that a major concern of the system is that in all kinds of input panels and dialogues, there is a consistent way of referring to our common backdrop, the Polish loanwords. So all the information that is contained in the Polish loanword dictionary, DGLP, can be very easily cross-referenced during work. And there is now a large number of search options, and the most interesting one is the relational view. So we have about 10,000 XML documents, each document representing an entry in an East Slavic dictionary that is excerpted by us. And these 10,000 XML documents can be converted with a single click into a relational database with about 40 tables. And this can be used to make lightning-fast searches across the different XML documents. Using the system is more or less straightforward. The starting point is always a Polish loanword from German that you pick from a fixed lemma list. For example, we can pick browar, a very important word, brewer or brewery. Besides getting a display of the DGLP entry as a reference, you get, most importantly, a tree view of all excerpts from East Slavic dictionaries that are associated with the Polish word browar and considered candidates for further loans from Polish. Let's look at it in magnification. So it's a straightforward structure. Here you have the Polish loan word browar from German Brauer as the heading, and the subheading represents a single entry in a single East Slavic, here Ukrainian dictionary, browar, that is considered a candidate, and you get all the variant forms, the 3 word senses, and the different derivatives found listed in this East Slavic entry for the Ukrainian word browar. Now we can just click on one of these word senses and get an input panel, of course, where you can edit, alter, and add all kinds of information. For example, you can write down the sense definition as given in the excerpted dictionary. You can add citations, and most importantly, you have what we call sense profiles. I will come to that in a minute. And you have a live preview of all the editing stuff that you do. You always can browse through a live preview of the excerpt that you have just written. Now to the word sense profiles. Each word sense definition that we excerpt from an East Slavic dictionary must be annotated or tagged with a word sense profile that indicates which word senses of the Polish lemma possibly or definitely correspond to the word sense in question. In this case, these checkboxes and question marks say, okay, the word sense that we are just editing corresponds or encompasses exactly word senses number 1 and 2 of the found in the DGLP in the Polish dictionary, and potentially even word sense number 4. You will later see what this is good for. It is a heuristic device that helps us in creating our own word sense spectra afterwards. It is clear that inter-annotator agreement in this case wouldn't be very high in difficult cases, but that's not the point. It is just a device that helps us later on to speed up the editing process. So now we come to the central part of the talk, namely the question how we solve the problem that we have, namely to invent for the target dictionaries that we write our own spectrum of word senses, given very, very different possibilities on the splitting, lumping scale in the original source dictionary. This is a screenshot of the tool. It looks a little bit complicated, but the purpose of this tool is, as it says on the slide, that this MetaSense editor is a tool to create target word senses in the newly compiled target dictionary. Remember that we compile dictionaries from already existing one by systematically extracting relevant information. This particular window that you see here represents all word senses of excerpted East Slavic entries that are associated with the Polish browar. So on the server side, a program collects all XML documents, all excerpts that we have for East Slavic candidates, pulls out the meaning, the word sense definitions, and sends them to the client where they are neatly displayed as shown here. The most important item in this view is the white index card. Each word sense that we have excerpted from any entry in any of our East Slavic dictionaries is represented as a virtual index card. And this index card says which dictionary the word sense was excerpted or extracted from. In this case, one of the most famous Russian historical dictionaries, which lemma the entry has, the word sense profile, as explained before, for that the editor has attributed to this word sense, the word sense definition itself, possibly with a commentary, and variant graphemic forms if they exist. The blue boxes correspond to the target word senses. And the idea is very simple. Each target word sense has its own meaning, word sense definition, and its own DGLP profile, as explained above. And the main point is that if you place an index card that represents an excerpted word sense within one of these boxes, then it is matched or aligned with the given target word sense. So here we have a target word sense that sort of includes the word sense that is represented by the index card that is marked here in red. The index cards are arranged in columns for the three languages. So for the Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Russian dictionaries, you have separate columns. And the index cards are further sorted according to the dictionary where the word sense definition is from to give you a quick overview. And in many cases, it is necessary to let an index card appear in more than one of our target word senses. And that is in cases, of course, where we want to split something that has been lumped in a source dictionary. That's easy to do and visually salient in our representation. You might note that there is a green question mark in the index card on the lower right. You can mark index cards as being somehow dubious with respect to their association with a certain target sense. You can simply shove and drag and drop index cards around while working with the index card. There's a clipboard, so to speak, in the upper region of the window. So it is, the system helps you to manipulate all those different data from possibly a large number of XML documents with ease and in a very intuitive fashion. But it still remains a completely manual work. But the question arises, of course, where do we get those target word senses from in the first place? One possibility is you can simply create them manually. You can simply say, make me a blue box, a new target word sense with that and that definition, and then you can add your index cards. But there are automated ways of doing it. And there are two main modes that are of interest here. One possibility is to say, in many cases, we will have a word sense definition in our Polish dictionary that has a good, that is a reasonable candidate for a target word sense. And you can simply automatically create these new target word senses from the Polish dictionary. And the other possibility is to simply create target word senses for any profile that is attested among the index cards, among the excerpted word senses. So one of the main functions of the DGLP word sense profiles is to speed up the process of defining one's own target word senses afterwards. It would be tedious in many cases to do that manually. And the relationship between the target word senses in our newly compiled dictionaries and the excerpted word senses of the original dictionaries is an M-to-N relation. That's very important. So you're absolutely free to do whatever suits you. You are not restricted in any way, logically. To conclude this, the word sense matching problem that I have briefly described here has at least three different sides. There is a lexicographical side. It is a well-known problem, of course, in historical and in lexicography in general. And you have seen how tagging the excerpted senses with profiles serves as a heuristic device to make this mapping or matching process easier. There's a practical side. If you have a very large number of excerpted word senses, and you have seen how a drag and drop user interface might help in coping with the amount of data that is available. There's menu-driven assistance for many common tasks. For example, you can merge two target word senses with all their index cards at the click of a mouse. And then there is a technical side. Doing all this with XML documents in a standard dictionary writing system would be very difficult, because you would have to consider data from a large number of different XML documents. And there is, our system solves this by server-side pre-processing of the data and representing the results of the matching or aligning process in separate relational tables. So the mapping of excerpted word senses to target word senses is not done within the XML documents, but it's encoded and represented in separate relational tables. And the final note is that we need similar tools not only for word senses, but also for example, identifying graphemic variants. And different dictionaries use different orthographic traditions, and it is very often it is vital importance to say that these two different word forms are just orthographic or graphemic variants of each other. And with all these tools, we can, in the last step, more easily compile our final dictionaries. Thank you very much for your attention.
And thank you very much for sticking precisely to time, leaving us time for questions or comments. Anyone?
I have a question. Thank you for a very interesting talk. I have a question which has very little to do with the technical side of what you have presented. Why are you assuming that every relevant lemma will be found in the Polish dictionary? Couldn't it be possible that there are loan words from German and Russian or Belarusian or Ukrainian that have bypassed Polish?
Absolutely. What you are talking about are, so to speak, operational constraints. We had to constrain for the purposes of submitting this project. We had to constrain the amount of work that we do, and so we decided to consider, first of all, only those cases where there was Polish as a transmitter language, which in some cases leads to cases where we detect that. In some cases, some lemmata in the Polish dictionary are actually not even German loanwords, but they have come through Russian into Polish, so to speak, backwards. And of course, there are many, many words that have been loaned, for example, into Russian directly without Polish as an intermediate step, especially following the era of Peter I, Peter the Great. So this is indeed not much more than a restriction that has to do with the resources, and we hope to fill the gaps that you have mentioned at a later time and perhaps in other projects.
I might dare question myself on the technical side, although I'm not a technical person, but could you tell me why you chose the lemma as the base unit? Wouldn't a different approach be to take the sentence as the basic with pointers to the lemma when you discussed the highly polysemous entries in the Polish dictionary?
This too, I think, is less of a content matter, but it's a kind of operationalization of the lexicographical process. So we always say we start with a certain entry in that Polish dictionary, considering not only the lemma, but also, for example, the derivatives, because sometimes it's only the derivative forms that have been passed on into, for example, Russian. And everything else takes place, so to speak, beyond the question, or beyond the lemma level. So the question of how lemmatization will be in our newly created target dictionaries, this question is completely independent of what is found in the source dictionary. In many cases, indeed, we have found that the lemma division in the Polish dictionary is linguistically, or from the point of view of contact linguistics, inadequate. And the tool is general enough in its data modeling to cope for these cases. So what we in fact do, or let me put it this way, the result of our lexicographical process doesn't look at lemmatizations in the source dictionaries at all.
Anyone a last question? If not, then let us stop here. It's almost 5 to. Thank you very much once again.